I have the audio now. Leave the audio down till they stop.
Elementary students.
Which channel is it? Is it channel 1 or channel 2?
I thought you said we could leave early.
That's both.
I think they switched it. Didn't they put us before FFA?
Nope. I just looked at it before we came up. The short version.
I thought ours was 5.
I got 12 students and myself.
The whole fam.
Ryan, are you ready?
You bet.
Started here. All right, if everybody please stand, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. It's always good to see everybody here tonight. This is the right reason to have a full boardroom. We can have presentations like this and get to listen to all that's going on. So just be mindful as we get into our meetings tonight. Please be mindful of our vision, which is inspiring all learners to be engaged and successful. Our mission to provide an enriching environment to meet the needs of all learners. And our core values of respect, integrity, students first, and excellence. I believe you all have the agenda in front of you, and there's been no changes or updates currently, right? So we need a motion then to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thanks, Andrea. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Jay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our agenda approved. No hearing of delegates, and most of you should have received the consent items with your packet over the weekend. And is there any questions or with the consent? I was able to go through the invoices today, and everything's in order as usual. If we have no questions, we just need a motion then to approve the consent items.
Make a motion to approve consent items.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Todd. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion consent items approved. Next, we go into the communications to the board, and tonight we have our FFA students. I believe we're talking about the National Convention.
That's correct. My name is Betsy Becker. I'm the Agricultural Education and FFA Advisor here at Algona High School. And in October 25th through the 29th, we were in Indianapolis for the National FFA Convention. We traveled on a charter bus out with schools from Gretna, Terrell, Esterville, North Iowa, North Union. We left Tuesday the 25th, and we got home about 12:30 a.m. on October 30th. I've got the 12 members that attended. They're here to present what they learned, what they brought back, and what they saw in the convention.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Julianne Kofoot. I'm a junior at AHS. We went on a tour of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and there were opportunities to climb in a car. We went and kissed the bricks. It's like the brickyard. It's a mile long. It's like the original track type thing. After we toured the track, they had like a little building where we could go in, and they had like places to take pictures, and that's where we climbed in the car. We got a picture of that. I don't know if it's on the slideshow, but we did get a picture of that. Then there was a big room where they had lots of like old race cars and stuff, and we got to go around and we got to see all the old race cars, and we saw some helmets that like people of the Indianapolis community designed. At the convention itself, we saw many like businesses that were like bigger and smaller. There were some social media influencers there that were bigger names. There were cowpoke stores where you could get a hat and you could get your hat shaped. There were clothes stores, and then there was the FFA Mega Store that just sells a bunch of FFA like merchandise. I loved National Convention because we got to meet new people at the hotel and at the convention itself, and it was a very new experience for me because I've never been to like a bigger city. Overall, I just really loved National Convention and I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Paige Villata, and first of all, I'd like to thank everyone and then thank Mrs. Becker for letting us go on this trip. And so yeah, I also had the Indianapolis Speedway, and we got to tour, not necessarily the whole track, but we got to go into this, as she said, this building where all of the past winning cars were at, and just learn a little history about that. And it was super cool seeing the yard of bricks and being able to get down on our knees and kiss it, as the winners used to do. And then when we went to the convention, I loved seeing all of the businesses and colleges there that we got to learn more about. And it was awesome having all of the businesses hand out free swag that we got to take home and then share with our parents, and then they get like super jealous at us that we had the experiences. And it was overall like a really fun time to meet the new people and just like learn a lot of new experiences. And we got to do a couple breakout rooms, I guess, and those were super cool because we learned how to see a need in our community and try and solve it through our chapter, and then branch out and have our school maybe do something. And then there was another one I went to about like knowing your worth and how to take compliments and how to know that you are like a part of your community and you are worth it. So thank you.
Thank you.
I am Ava Merriman. I am a sophomore. I also, once again, had the Indianapolis Speedway. It was an incredible experience and a great opportunity to go and see one of the most famous places in the U.S. There are so many great facts we learned and some awesome traditions we found out. As they also said, the kissing of the bricks when they won the race. It was honestly a great experience, and I wasn't too sure where I was going to go to college or where I was considering, but when I went there, I talked to many different colleges, and I found out where I for sure want to go and where I'm most interested. It was a great opportunity to go and meet new people. We met many different states, and I have never experienced something quite like that. I've never been to a big city, and it was a great experience for me to be able to do, and I had so much fun making so many memories with my chapter. Thank you.
So I'm Kayla Busher. I'm a sophomore, so this was actually my second year going. I'm the only returning member that's going again. So on Wednesday the 26th, we went to our opening sessions ceremony, and Tamika Catchings was the speaker there. I had three main points from Tamika. Number one was to be bold, which means to believe in yourself, be open to change, lead with love, and dare to be remarkable. Number two was not to be ashamed of who you are. She was deaf and embarrassed about it until her basketball coach realized and had a conversation with her about it that made her realize that it's good to be different. That's when things started to finally change for Tamika, and she realized. Her final one was dare to be different. Don't try and fit in. You need to stand out. You need to be yourself. So overall, that was the basic thing I learned. You need to embrace your differences, and difference is good.
Hi, I'm Reed Dawaji, and I am a junior at Algona High School. I'm also the secretary of the Algona FFA chapter. At National Convention, Logan, Lance, Aiden Morris, Ian Fair, and I competed in the Environmental and Natural Resources competition and represented the state of Iowa. We competed in a 2-day competition, and on Wednesday was kind of like a field day where we had to take outdoor tests. The tests were about GPSs, soils, and water quality. So they put us through a series of tests to test in those categories. And it was a very good experience, and I learned a lot, and I'm going to bring a lot back to the chapter.
My name is Logan Lentz, and I'm currently a junior, and I also currently hold the reporter position for the FFA chapter. One thing I learned at the FFA convention was that no matter where people came from, like all the way across the country, they all came for like one thing, and we're all united in that one thing. And it was really fun to just like meet new people, and we all had the same experiences. But one thing, as Reed was talking about with the competition, after Wednesday's field day, we had Thursday we had about an hour to prepare an 8-minute presentation about the effects on wildfires on communities. So we did that, and I feel like we did really well. And when it was all said and done, we received a silver rating, and we placed 16th in the country. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Carly Allen. I'm a junior. So on Wednesday we attended the Cinch's Toughest Rodeo, and there was 3,500 people at the rodeo. The events were bareback, saddle bronc, and bull riding. There were 2 sides of the arena, so they split the arena directly down and have 2 sides for the shootout round for teams to get the crowd more involved and stuff. So there was Team Polaris and Team Renegade. We were on Team Renegade. After, I would say, about 4 people, they went to the elimination round, where 1 person from each side competed. So there's 2 people in each event, and so they called it a shootout round to see who the best of the best was. So for the saddle bronc, Team Renegade won, and then for the bear bronc, Team Renegade also won. But in the bull riding, none of the riders covered, so it was like a draw. And then before the shootout round, they had the bucket races, so they filled 2 5-gallon buckets, like full with water, and they had 2 different advisors from each side carry the water all the way over a fence, and they had to pass it all the way down the arena and then back over a fence, so they got the whole crowd involved, and the first team back in the arena was the winner, and Team Renegade also won that by barely anything. And some things that I took away from National Convention were there's a lot of people that are interested in agriculture, and I loved like shopping and stuff. That was a good thing, but I also enjoyed talking to different colleges and seeing what they had to offer and what areas of ag they had to offer as well.
Hi, I'm Ian Fair, and I'm a junior and part of the Environment and Natural Resources team. One of the workshops I went to was Habits, Your Best Frenemy, and at this workshop I learned the values of habits and the growth you can have if you just focus on growing your good habits in just a year. And then about National Convention, it was just a really fun experience to have, to get to compete with my friends and also learn about many things at like career fairs and everything.
So I'm Aid Morris. I'm a senior, and I'm a treasurer of the FFA chapter. And I also attended the Habits Your Best Frenemy workshop. And the main takeaway I got from it was that when you start a habit, the effects from it don't start right away. You have to keep time, so over several weeks, months, or even years, just for it to start seeing the effect. Also, I was a part of the Environmental and Natural Resources team, and I thought it was a very interesting experience to be able to know that you represented not just your entire chapter of school and but your entire state in a whole competition.
Hi again. I attended the Know Your Worth workshop where we learned how to know my worth, be confident, and accept compliments, while also learning how to grow public speaking skills and be comfortable with yourself.
Hello, I'm a tutor. I went to the Your Words Have Worth workshop. And while at this workshop, I learned that if you have your mind at something, and that if you get the right people to help you, or you can, if you do it by yourself and you know what to do, you can do about anything that you want.
Hi, I'm Kara Roeder, and I'm a sophomore. So we went to Ozark Fisheries, and it was really cool to see like the whole process of breeding and selling fish. So first we were able to go to where they keep their fry, and they had a bunch of different tanks, and they showed us like how they take care of them before they move them to the ponds. And then we got to go into the large building where they put them before they're able to sell them. We got to see how they kind of like put them in the boxes and how they ship them. And then how they move them from the ponds. They have these trucks they will put them in. And then we learned that they mainly sell off of Amazon. And it was really cool just to kind of see everything and how you breed fish.
Hi, I'm Jacob Shutter. I'm a junior, and I'm the Sentinel for the FFA chapter. So members had a chance to talk with industry employers, as well as colleges and universities, about potential agricultural opportunities. So this is a great chance to explore all the different college options out there. And I was able to talk to different colleges all over the United States to see why their college is better than other colleges. And they gave me their knowledge and offer for different majors, like what I would pursue someday. It was such an amazing experience to really think about the future, what colleges and careers are out there, just not here in Iowa, but like other places. My favorite part of convention was meeting different people from all over the states. Like we have one mission and we were all one and all that.
So next year, the 96th National FFA Convention will be held November 1st to the 4th. One side note, I will actually get to celebrate my birthday back in Iowa. This year I was able to celebrate it on the way home with these students on the bus, so it was a good time. But we're looking forward to what next year brings. This last year, we were busy. We had 7 Iowa degree recipients in April. We had 2 freshman quiz. A student here finished a 9th in the state and earned a gold. Ellie Vasquez was a silver. We had a Rising Star. It was the first time that I'm aware that Algona has had a North Central District Rising Star. It's an outstanding sophomore. Reed was our representative for the district. We had state qualifying teams. We had Team Ag Sales and Farm Business Management teams both received golds. We were awarded the 75th anniversary award for our chapter. In May, our Envirothon finished first at the state competition, which qualified us then for 2 competitions, the International Envirothon competition in Ohio, where we finished 36th, I guess, kind of in the world. It's an international competition, so the kids did really well. That was a 5-person team. Hunter Childress was the extra person that was on that team, and they really, really were challenged by a lot of different activities. Probably the hardest thing was a sequestration of about 10 hours to put together a presentation. They had no outside contact, and so that was a real grit and perseverance day for the guys. This summer, we did the Kossuth County Fair. We had members exhibiting there and at the State Fair. We went to the Austin Barrow Show in September, District Soils in October. We took 4 teams to districts. We had the first place team, and they qualified for the state competition. And then our teams, our second team, third team, and fourth team all placed in the top 6. Where I've never had that, or I'm not sure that any teams ever really had that success. So the kids have really done well this year. At State Soils, the kids finished in 15th place with a silver. We plan to go to the Iowa Pork Congress, Sioux Empire, and possibly the Beef Expo if the weather and the dates line up. I haven't heard exactly when they are. This last slide is really challenging for you guys to see, but what it basically summarizes is our chapter's activities. We have 101 projects going on, so that's about 1.2 projects per student. This would be, in your world, the work-based learning. This is what they're doing every day, whether it's in class or at home. they're doing work-based learning. We had 6,464 hours journaled this year, 237 FFA contest hours, 60 contest activities, SAE income, that's what they journal, and had a $59,000 income. And our impact to the community was just a shade under $62,000 between volunteerism and what they've purchased in the community. They're busy, I'm tired, and I'm gonna end with this. What questions do you have for myself or my members?
You guys get to drink milk at the Indianapolis Speedway?
No.
We did not, but we learned about the history behind it.
For those that aren't aware, the winning driver gets to select which milk that they drink out of. It can be skim milk, it could be 2%, or it could be whole. Another thing, if that driver is a member of the Indiana Dairy Council, they get a $10,000 bonus. They said it's amazing, but they almost have 100% participation in the Indiana dairy producers. So, but yeah, that was brought up.
Have we always competed? This year when listed?
This is the first time that I'm aware of in at least 25 years that we qualified from a state event to the national event. So that was a pretty unique experience. Those 4 guys were pretty tired. They didn't get the traditional national convention of kind of sleeping in and that. The first day we had to be up at 5:30. We had to catch an Uber at 6:30 to get to the contest, 6 o'clock to get to the contest by 6:30 in the morning so they could take off and evaluate soils in the rain. Did I get it right?
All right.
So.
Excellent work by you guys, and congratulations on all the success and accomplishments.
And you all look great tonight.
Thank you.
Any other questions for us?
No, but thank you again for being here and giving us the updates.
You guys should be proud.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Good work, guys.
All right, moving on to the next, it'll be the superintendent's report. Joe, we'll start. Let you go.
Just a final review of our certified enrollment, which we kind of previewed last month. Our certified enrollment is up 7.7 students. As we talk a lot about, our certified enrollment drives all of our per pupil funding for the 2023-2024 school year, so this number for next year. Our number of resident students, our number of open enrolled students, are also open enrolled in are both up as well. So overall, we have 10.6 more students attending the district this year than last, and more than 55 students are more attending in 2022-23 than in 2021. So in a two-year time period, we've increased 55 students in the district. We also know with reorganization that 55 number next year, I'll probably say we're up 95 students as our 25 to 30 students come from Laverne next year, and we have 35 students who attend the district now who are open enrolled in, so those will become certified. So right between those two numbers, that's 60 that will come. Plus we have the students who are whole grade shared here right now. We just received 25 or 75% of those funding, so we get 25% of those 53, which is about 9 students more. So our numbers will look a lot different next year. Our resident students per district this year is up 6. This will go up. That's the one that will change drastically as our district expands. So some of the kids who are currently in Laverne or open enroll from Laverne will be part of resident students next year. Our actual enrollment, which is the certified number. This is the resident number. This is our certified number, a little over 1,300. This will also go up because of the Laverne reorganization. Our open enrolled in, 154. I believe that's the most the district has ever had this year, up 11 from last year. There's no question this will go down. And that's because we have 35 open enrolled in students from Laverne last year. So we know we're going to take 35 off the top of that and be down probably in the 120s next year. Tuitioned in, we don't really know. That's a year-to-year whole grade share in. We had 53 this year, 50 last year. That will be 0. We won't have whole grade shared in students next year. Our 4-year-old preschool attending statewide voluntary preschool program is down 4.5. Hard for us to estimate that. Our 3-year-old preschool has good numbers, so we would anticipate a similar number next year. Total school-aged kids, this is kids who are going here. We're over 1,400. It's up 10 from last year. It's up 55 in the last 2 years, and that number is going up next year, and that's good news. It's good news for a number of reasons. It's good news for funding purposes. It's good news for our district. It creates some security for our district. It also creates a lot of space issues in our district and where we put these people, but we got them all in places right now. Questions on certified enrollment and any of those numbers? Last thing, the convention is later, the Iowa Association of School Board Convention later this week at the Iowa Event Center. Rodney's headed down to the delegate assembly Wednesday morning. Tom will be there probably all week as a representative of as a board member for the Iowa Association of School Boards. 3 keynote convention speakers kind of headline the week. I'll be down there Thursday as well. There's still, if anyone is interested in going, we can still get you signed up for that, so let Lisa or I know.
All right. Any questions for Joe or anything else? Okay, we'll then move on to our administrative report, and we have a few teachers here and principals to talk about walk to intervention.
Hello.
Hello.
We're going to talk about walk to intervention, which is just something we're doing a little bit differently this year. So on the next slide, what walk to intervention is basically it's where kids walk to different intervention teachers at a specific time, and then they can get skills targeted or lessons, instruction targeted exactly like what skills they need. So we're trying it this year. We think it's a good model for us because we're able to provide those targeted interventions, and we can intensify the interventions if need be. So a small group of students would go to an interventionist, and oftentimes we can do that for daily for the whole week for 30 minutes, but sometimes we might just do 3 days a week for 15 minutes or whatever, and we can change it up so we can intensify if the intervention isn't making the progress that we want it to. It also allows us to group students by the skills they need rather than by which class they come from. So in previous years, we may have had Mrs. Carroll's class had intervention at this time, so those kids all went to intervention, but they needed different things. Now, with all 3rd grades going at the same time, we can put them into groups based on if they're working on learning what Magic E does or CDC words or whatever it is, they can get that intervention based on the skills that they need. And it also allows us, the SDI students or students with IEPs can have their time that they have their time with their special education teacher and have another scoop with an interventionist as well. So ideally, it gives us a chance to kind of get those kids twice that we maybe weren't able to do before.
My name is Jean Davis, and I'm one of the interventionists at both Bryant and Lucia Wallace. Well, I guess we all are. So Heidi Kelly and Sarah Tilches, Carrie Young are at Bryant, and Lucia Wallace and Kelsey Throne is at the kindergarten level. And they were not able to come this evening, but they are all doing the same thing as myself, and we are breaking off into those small groups and pulling kids during that intervention time. This is our current schedule. We did start out the beginning of the year with only one group of 1st grade and one group of 2nd grade, and then it was apparent to us that we needed to have some extra time at the 1st and 2nd grade level. So we expanded our time at Bryant, and we have now 2 sections of 1st grade and 2 sections of 2nd grade that we are there now until a little bit after 11. And then we go over to Lucia Wallace, and we are there for a section of 3rd grade and a section of 4th grade. So our planning time, and then we have some intervention time in the afternoon for math that we are still pulling that's not on there, but this is basically reading intervention time. But we do some math interventions in the afternoon. And then if we have a student that we need to pull for maybe an extra 10-minute scoop or a little extra intervention that they might need, we can pull those students then. So.
Brad Sudol, elementary principal at Worth Godfrey and Bryant. Interventions are determined. We have to take the screener, what's called FAST, which I believe Mrs. Eichen's talked with you about FAST data before. We take that 3 times a year, the fall, the winter, and the spring, and we look at that screener to see who is not meeting benchmark, and then those kids that are not meeting benchmark, what we do is we take those students and use a diagnostic assessment with them. Some diagnostic assessments that we've used this year is 95%, and the IDI, which is the informal decoding inventory. Both of those assessments really work on phonics skills, and then what we do with the data from that is then put those kids into those groups to help form those intervention groups. So a lot of those groups are then explicit instruction on those phonics skills. For example, the CVC words that Mrs. Sutra is talking about, or working on blends of those different types of things.
I'm Molly Lighting, and I am the elementary MTSS coordinator, so I kind of work with the interventionists to make sure the kids are in the places they need to be and look through the data that we collect from interventions. So once we have kids in intervention, the classroom teachers are collecting data on a curriculum-based measure, such as the CBM, which is a fluency measure, or some decodable words if you're at the 1st grade level. That is just to see if the interventions are doing the job of transferring over to grade level skills. The interventionist collects some progress monitoring data within the intervention itself. So if Mrs. Davis is working on short A words for the week, then she would progress monitor at the end of the week on the scale of just short A words to see if they picked up that skill, as opposed to reading all CBC words. After we collect data each month, I meet with interventionists and with classroom teachers in what we call a progress check. So this is really to inform the classroom teachers what's happening and how their students are progressing through interventions over the course of a month. So we kind of look at the classroom data the teacher has brought, and then we look at the intervention data from those progress monitoring on skills. At that point, if we need to intensify, change the intervention, we can swap groups around. If Mrs. Tilges and Mrs. Davis have kids that kind of are falling behind a little bit, but yet some who are kind of moving forward, they can flip-flop, so that way we can really target the skills the kids need in those interventions. The last part is communication, and I touched on this a little bit with interventionists and teachers. Our interventionists enter the data that they collect in a place called Panorama, or Student Success. And this allows me to see all of the data they're inputting in real time, as well as any classroom teacher who can access that data. Ideally, our goal is to inform parents once a month of the progress on those interventions. Last year was kind of our first year with interventionists and doing these progress checks. And we kind of got about once a quarter last year, but our goal this year is to really kind of amp that up and be able to inform parents what those students are doing and how they're progressing on those interventions monthly. Do you have any questions for us?
Do you have any questions?
This is the first year you guys are trying this style format, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Can you tell us just briefly the difference between this format and what we did previously?
Yes, so before, Mrs. Schucher touched on this a little bit, but so Mrs. Davis served just 3rd grade in our building last year. So at one point in time, it'd be Mr. Severson's time for intervention. And so she would pull all the kids from Mr. Severson's classroom, and they would vary in skills. Some of them needed CBC words, learning short A and short I. Some of them needed more fluency work and were past those other skills. So this really helps us to target the specific skills that kids need and group them with kids who have that same skill deficit. It also helps because we have the 4 interventionists who are, so in that 1st grade A section, you have 4 interventionists who are pulling 4 to 6 kids from 2 or 3 sections of first grade. So we're able to hit a lot more kids in a shorter amount of time.
The other thing I think is important too is the way we develop the schedule this year. Kids are not getting pulled out of core classes with this, so they're in the classroom for those core things with our CKLA knowledge and skills. They're in those classes for that, so this is really an extra school, whereas before it was probably kids getting pulled out of some skills things with an extra group of that. So they're getting skills in the classroom, but also getting skills with those interventionists as well too.
And then the kids that are pulled out, what's going on and what's happening in the classroom?
So the teachers in those the teachers in those classrooms are working on, they might be pulling different kids for maybe some math interventions, working on those kids. It might be a kid extending a kid with a different skill too as well. It all depends on the needs of the classroom.
There's a lot of small group work that happens during that time. So if I know one of our 4th grade teachers is doing a novel study with a group of kids who doesn't need the walk to intervention time per se to be pulled out for skills. It just kind of depends. Like you said, sometimes the math interventions, otherwise just some extra reading small group work with the teacher.
And then one of the reasons we switched mid-September, sorry, I feel weird not to be in those seriousness, was because we did, when we first planned it, like let's say first grade, Mrs. Davis had a group, Mrs. Tildes, everyone, and then we had a few classroom teachers that also had a group.
Yes.
And we just, it's just a lot for a classroom teacher to hold that small group of 4 to 6 back and still have 10 other kids in the room that they had to manage and keep track of too. So like by dividing it up, classroom teachers don't have to do most of them don't have to do like specific targeted interventions. They can finish a math cool down or rework some math problems or something like that. Other work that needs to be done for those kiddos that are left in their room. So we try to ease the burden a little bit on the classroom teachers by not having them have to have kids who really needed skill-focused work, but also have 7, 8 other kids in the room doing other things. And I go to the bathroom and I don't feel good, and just all the things that happen when you're trying to teach.
Good. Any other questions? Well, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll go into new business then. We had a first reading last meeting, the second reading of board policy changes. Should have that in front of you.
Yep, all of these changes are due to House File 802 from the previous legislative session. Like Rodney said, we had our first reading of these in October. This is the second. Nothing has changed from those that we went through last month. The House File 802 is the transparency in curriculum. 401.14, employee expression. This is a mandatory policy. Employees will comply with the Iowa law to the extent that the compliance does not infringe on their free speech. 4081, licensed employee professional development. That we, this is board policy that we provide professional development, and we're required to do that. This matches actual practice. It's just required to have it in board policy form now. So that is the change. And that is also a mandatory policy. 6021 is the curriculum development. All of these red bullets were removed and then replaced with the green. So still, that the curriculum, if you look at some of these green descriptors, that they identify the content standards, the benchmarks, grade level expectations. That certainly is an expectation of our curriculum. You think of the CKLA curriculum that we added for K-8 in English Language Arts for this year. All of that curriculum identifies what the content standards are for grade level as well as benchmark and expectations. So it's just putting that into policy form. That is also a mandatory policy. Curriculum implementation, we need to add these 2 bullets to ensure that the curriculum framework complies with applicable laws and to provide professional development to staff to support curriculum implementation. Curriculum evaluation 6023, we add the bullet to ensure curriculum complies again with applicable laws. 605.2, instructional and library materials inspection. We already had an instructional and library materials inspection board policy. This just adds that a parent or guardian can always see instructional materials. They can always see library materials. That our card catalog is available in the school library. It's also available on our website, which it always has been. Electronic textbooks and core materials that are written and published for the use in elementary and secondary. That a parent or guardian can preview those or see those. Relevant portions of required print and text, again, that any parents can see those, and we certainly would always want them to see those if they chose to. If a 605.3 is the objection to instructional library materials, which we also added, this is added at the end, that the parents or guardians can request that their students not check out certain library materials. So that's kind of an added layer, and then there's a documentation in there for a parent to do that. 605.3R1, this is the, again, in the reconsideration of instructional and library materials, a complete rewrite of this board policy, of the procedures that someone would go to if they had a concern or a complaint against anything in our library. And that's a lengthy one. And this is the actual request to prohibit a student from checking out, which is also the exhibit that's part of board policy.
All right. Was there any questions from what we went through last month and this month? If not, we'd need a motion then to approve the board policy changes to House File 802.
I'll motion to approve the changes.
Okay, thank
These
you.
documents.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Todd. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approving a new backstop for the baseball field.
Our high school baseball field is in need of a new backstop. You know, there's a number of things we want to continue to improve on the field. Earlier in the fall, we improved the new lights that will start getting installed tomorrow. The backstop is another item it's very worn, become a safety hazard. We had balls going through at times last year. We received a quote from Sand Construction for a backstop that's similar to what we installed on the new softball field. So it has a 30-inch concrete wall, which is actually 6 inches shorter than our softball one. And then it has netting above that. And then there's some fencing from that to the dugouts. The quote is for $80,000. The Booster Club is willing to contribute $10,000. $50,000 can come from our advertising dollars, which just leaves about $29,000, $30,000 to come out of our PEPAL expenses, which is something we certainly can budget for this year. I certainly would recommend this. You know, another improvement to our baseball field that certainly is needed. The lights, as we talked about previously, you know, we got to a point last year where we didn't know if we were going to be able to play games at night, so we need those. And the net is similar. You know, we had balls going through. It's certainly a safety concern, something that we are able to address right now.
Will this new backstop be taller than the current one?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep, yes, it is. I don't have that.
I just, so there's several
Ball goes
balls
over.
that go backwards, and a lot of softball fans sit in the outfield, and it just
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we think
hopefully
this
we
will
can
catch almost all of
catch,
those
okay.
now. You know, we had, as you know, you were at a lot of those. We had about a couple feet where we were getting a few that would skate through. So we think this will capture those now, and which is good for our fans that are sitting in between.
Good.
When would they be able to do the work, Joe, before next baseball season, I'm
They do.
assuming?
Yep, they think they could do that. I'm not so sure. They won't even get going on it maybe right away.
I know here it says A, but just the quote does say 89,000, and I think those add up to what the
Yes.
10, 50, and 29,
Add up to, yep.
that 89.
Yep,
So
right.
it's 89,865 is our quote. All right, any further questions? Seems like the continuing improvement we needed to do with our facilities outdoors.
Yeah.
So
I make a motion to approve the new baseball backstop.
thank you, Andrea. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, looking to sharing agreement with girls wrestling.
Yeah, you remember back, we added middle school and high school girls wrestling, hired our staff for that in the last 6 months or so. We've been practicing for a few weeks. I think we have 34 girls between middle school and high school that are practicing, so we got a lot of girls out. That's awesome. We've had 2 schools contact us, both North Union and North Iowa, inquiring about sharing girls wrestling. They have some students who are interested, but they don't really have enough for a program. Currently, there are not any classifications in high school girls wrestling, so it would be just them coming here and competing for Algona. I would recommend, probably a $200 wrestling per wrestler fee. They're going to provide their transportation here. We already have our coaches. Really, that covers uniform type costs is what it does. So I think both schools have 1 student each that is interested in coming.
Seems logical. So
Yeah. Make a motion to approve the sharing agreement for girls wrestling.
thank you. Todd, do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Andrea. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approves. Looking at a memorandum of understanding with Iowa Lakes for a career and college transition counselor.
The link in your agenda shows some roles and responsibilities. These college and career transition counselors is a state initiative. They want to put these positions in place throughout the state to help high school students transition to the next level or the next step after high school. Iowa Lakes Community College currently has 1 college and career transition counselor in place, and it serves Spencer, Okoboji, and Esterville High School. They've had it in place for a couple years. It's been a great thing to help some of their kids transition to whether that's Iowa Lakes or any other college or even work beyond college. Iowa Lakes has secured a federal grant to put another one of these college and career transition counselors in place. And they have asked us, and they're going to secure 2 other schools for that. This grant that they've received is in the amount of $133,000. So over a 3-year time period, that grant, as well as we generate operational sharing dollars by having this counselor in place. So we get 2 FTE, so 2 students we'd count per year, so around $15,000. Those dollars, as well as the grant dollars, pays for this position. So this person would be here 1 day a week. They'd be in the other 2 schools 1 day a week as well. And then in Iowa Lakes for the last day. There certainly is overlap with what they do and what our counselors do, which would free our counselors into other areas that they work in. Our high school counselors are, they're part of scheduling, they're part of college and career transitioning, they're part of mental health, they're part of many different pieces, as well as some classes that they teach. So this would be a great addition to just help in our work with our kids to college and beyond. After the 3 years, if there's no additional grant dollars, then our agreement with Iowa Lakes ends. So we're not on the hook for anything. I think it would be a really good thing, just another person here to work with our kids and help in their transition to life after Algona High School.
Joe, any work here or collaboration with the Scholarship Foundation?
Yeah, for sure. There's a number of things that we typically have in place. A couple weeks ago, we had a college day where they work on FAFSAs. We have the work helping our kids prepare for scholarships for our foundation. This would be a great link in both of those with our kids, yeah.
Okay, any other further discussion? Okay, hearing none, then we need a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding.
And do they hire that person, or do we hire that person?
We are involved in the hiring process. So
Okay,
Jared
good.
Cecil, our high school principal, will be part of that process for sure, so we make sure it's a good fit for us.
That's important.
I make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with Iowa Lakes.
Thank you, Andrea. Do we have a second?
I'll
I'll
second
second
that.
the motion.
All right. Jay, we'll have Jay second it then. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Girls wrestling's cheer coach.
Our master contract has one position, cheer coach. Traditionally in the district, we have broke that into three parts. So we've taken the one contract and we've given a third of it to our football cheer coach, a third to our basketball cheer coach, and a third to our wrestling cheer coach. That's something we do probably need to address. I'm not sure that's we need to have separate contracts for those with appropriate, amounts for each. But in the meantime, what has happened with the addition of girls wrestling, we have someone we're going to recommend for our girls wrestling cheer coach for $800, but now with girls wrestling, they have twice as many dates. Whereas in basketball, girls and boys travel together, so it's a different thing. So we've created a need that I would like to, and what I would recommend is we pay this wrestling cheer coach the $800 stipend they would normally get, and then another $800 stipend for the girls wrestling cheer coach for this year. It is something that we need to clean up in our master contract for next year, so we have all these positions in place. But it's just kind of an unforeseen thing that came about with the addition of girls wrestling for this year.
Is it two different positions, Joe, or would we have the same person? Just
We would
kind of
have the same
both?
person doing both.
Gotcha.
And are they same cheerleaders basically or not? I mean, do they have separate?
They are the same cheerleaders.
They do go,
yes.
they're wrestling cheerleaders. and
Gotcha, they just go to
basketball
different-
cheerleaders. Yeah, okay.
Got it.
All right, any other questions? All right, we need then a motion to approve the additional stipend for the girls wrestling cheer coach.
Motion to approve
additional
stipend.
Thank you, Brent. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Thanks, Tom. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Fortunate to have cheerleader sponsors.
Yeah.
I know that's
Yes,
in
we
the
are.
past been very difficult for us.
Yeah.
So that's
We got a
lot
great
of-
person too, that we're going to recommend.
That's a lot of dates for those
It is.
cheerleaders to be 2 nights a week,
And I imagine
split it up.
they're going to have to split. Some are have to go some places, some aren't going to go, and there's going to be probably some Tuesday nights or Thursday nights where we don't go. If they're going Monday, Saturday, and then there might be some dates it's a lot for our kids to go to all those. So they'll have to make those decisions.
Okay. Yeah. All right, any further discussion? We do have a motion and a second. All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. A fundraiser brought to us by the girls' basketball.
Boys basketball programs, grades 7 through 12 will be running a shoot-a-thon fundraiser. The students will collect pledges, donations. They'll shoot 100 free throws to calculate the amount to collect after pledges. Coach McLaughlin writes in the request form that he estimates about $2,500, and they'll be used to purchase new warm-ups for the girls' basketball team for this year.
Need a motion then to approve the fundraising request.
So moved.
Thanks, Jay.
Second.
Thanks, Andrea. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, looking at the SBRC application.
SBRC application is something that we do look at and approve every year, and it allows us to receive on-time funding budget adjustments for increased certified enrollment. So like for us this year, where our certified enrollment has increased, although it's seven kids, but it allows you to get that money now rather than next year. It also, for open enroll out, allows us to receive funding for students who were not on the fall 21 count, and then we're open enrolled out in 22, and then ELL beyond 5 years funds with students. That's our limited English proficiency beyond 5 years for resident students. So it allows us some on-time funding for some kids that you wouldn't get otherwise. So in the application, it has our amounts. So increase 7, we get 57,000 for certified enrollment, 83,000 for some open enroll outs, and then a little over 4,600 for limited English proficiencies.
It is a great program.
Yeah, this is really a good deal.
And it is simplistic to enter the data, and it does promote, our school funding formula across the state promotes equity. Really well, small schools, large schools, it doesn't matter. Promotes equity, same way here. We're very fortunate to have a funding formula across our state. Some states don't have that. But what a way to pick up an additional $145,000 of authority with a stroke of a pen.
Yeah, it really is. And every dollar matters. You guys certainly know that. You can start to get around 100,000. Certainly that matters. That's positions, that's staff members. A large school district, which probably the reason this is in place. They have 100 new kids this year, but they get the funding next year. Well, this allows the authority to spend it this year, which that's a really important thing.
Yeah. And that's the equity component of the Iowa formulas.
Yeah.
Great program.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then we need a motion to approve the SBRC application.
I would do that motion to approve the SBRC application.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Todd. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looks like we may have a van we're able to purchase.
Yeah, we've been working to find 12-passenger van, something we've talked about as a board going back to last spring. 12-passenger vans provide us with a lot of flexibility. We put 12 students in it. The obvious part, the flexibility is that our staff members can drive it. We don't have to have a bus driver, which bus drivers are hard to come by. We don't have a lot of extra drivers to sub on our routes and then have our route drivers drive trips. So when we have a lot of things going a lot of different directions, the 12-passenger van really helps us. So we purchased a used one last spring. There's some used stuff and laws that I won't get really far into that schools can't buy these new. That's why we buy them used. It's against the law for us to buy them new. Won't get into all that, but it is. But Chemna found a used one for us for $39,000. It's a 2019 with 58,000 miles on it.
What's the reasoning to why you can't buy? We can buy new buses.
Yep.
What is the problem?
It's a federal law. Why? That they have to meet bus specifications if they're a 12-passenger, which vans don't. So there's a federal law that says you can't buy them new. Loophole in the law is that the law says new. So what everyone does is buys them used. I went through it with Representative Stone. He went to bat for us until we found out it's not an Iowa barrier. It's a federal barrier of why it's like this.
And then do our coaches need any special to drive it, or?
Well, we do. We do have them get their passenger endorsement, which is just going and get that. I think EMC Insurance appreciates that we do that.
Okay.
But all of our staff has been doing that when they drive this vehicle.
That just goes on their regular license.
Yep.
Will this save us if we get possibly one more next year? Will it save us from having to purchase a new bus going forward?
Maybe.
Possibly?
We cut. We were buying 2 buses. We cut that to 1. Just planning on doing 1 again. If this allows us to get to where we skip a year, that's It's a big deal budget-wise, but I think we're leaning towards that.
Good.
Okay.
Because you have several teams that could take 2 vans instead of one bus, right?
Yeah, especially when you talk about, maybe girls wrestling or golf teams, cross country. There's some different groups that we can get in 12-passenger vans, and that'll get us where we need to.
Good. Diesel's expensive. That's a fourth of the price of a new bus. So.
Yes.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, we need a motion then to approve the purchase.
Motion to approve purchase of passenger van, which you used.
Thank you. Brent, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Jay. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Open enrollment, I see we have 3.
We do have 3. It says 4 there. We have 3 open enrollment students. These are students who all attend going to community school district and families moving. This is an open enrollment pack-in to continue to attend our district.
I make a motion to approve the open enrollment request, sorry.
Yep, thanks, Andrea.
Okay, question. So
Got second.
they're currently here and they live here.
Yep.
They're on our account.
Yep.
They move there.
Right.
Who gets the money for them?
We do, because they're on our account. But you just have to have the paperwork in place, for moving ahead, though.
Okay.
And I just gotta keep track of
Of how many days they're here?
them. Well, not in that case, because they're always been here.
Yeah.
The new, you bring up a good point, the new open enrollment rules, where it can happen at any time. What I don't think our legislators maybe understood about that is if that happens after the date, we don't get the money for them.
So we don't get money from West Hancock in this case because we're already getting the money.
We are getting, but in a different case, if we had a student from North Union open enroll tonight and we approved it after October 1st, we don't get the money for that student. Now, we can charge them, but.
Well, and that's what we've been told to do,
Right.
by the day.
But the change in the open enrollment, it's a great thing. It provides flexibility, provides choice, but we don't necessarily get funding for that. That is something they need to look at. It's also a tremendous bookkeeping issue.
I wonder if this is going to open up a can of worms on this, if we start thinking charging by the day, regular ed kids.
That's
Now
how
you
we're-
start thinking into the special ed arena, which can be very expensive.
Yep.
You get the count day, you get the money for the entire year, the families move, and all of a sudden,
That's
that's a
already
3.7.
Right.
Yeah.
And, it's
There's a
going
lot
to be
to it.
something they didn't look at entirely.
Yeah, it
in their
is.
thinking process.
Yeah, and I think they realize that. There'll probably be something that changes. I'm not sure I know what it will be, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Good discussion. We did have a second by Jay on that, if someone didn't hear. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Open enrollment's approved. Going into resignations.
Resignations, Bryce Bradley from 9th grade baseball, Lindsay Strucker from teacher associate at Bryant, Tyler Kraft and Corey Keeker, middle school wrestling, they both had half of that. Daniel Clements from food service, Tanya Zeman, Lucia Wallace teacher associate, Misty Marine Jensen, Lucia Wallace teacher associate.
Okay, need a motion then to approve the resignations.
So moved.
Thanks, Jay. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Thanks, Tom. We have a motion and a second to approve the resignations. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resignations approved. Going into new contracts then.
Got a lot of them.
Yeah.
James Roder, middle school girls wrestling coach. Mr. Roder does have 2 coaching contracts for us right now. As an administrator, that's a lot. That's not something we want to continue to do. And he knows that. He's helping us out with the middle school girls wrestling this year. He'll just have one of those 2 next year. Christy Roberts, 9th to 10th grade girls basketball. Cody Alish, middle school wrestling coach. Leah Wilhite, wrestling girls and boys cheer coach. Vicki Steenhook, high school, middle school secretary. Megan Eden, Bryant teacher associate. Levon Cruz, Bertha Godfrey teacher associate. Tyler Lighting, high school boys basketball volunteer. Blake Elsbecker, high school boys basketball volunteer. Mike Ford, high school girls basketball volunteer. Justine Garman for 9th grade softball. Brian Morgan for high school and middle school wrestling volunteer. Jay Bustrom, high school and middle school wrestling volunteer. Corey Bustrom, high school and middle school wrestling volunteer. Shane Meshke, middle school boys basketball, 7th grade middle school boys basketball volunteer. Jeremy Rummel as a middle school wrestling coach. Dave Penton, bus driver. Cam Etherington, volunteer softball coach. Jackson Cecil, volunteer assistant boys basketball. And Jessica Kern, Lucia Wallace, teacher associate. These are all pending appropriate certifications.
So the bus driver, is that a regular route driver?
Yes, it is.
Good.
Yes, it is.
As a volunteer coach, can they be paid? I know they're
Yep.
volunteers.
Well,
so if there's funding, say, I know wrestling has the little kids tournaments and stuff. They have kind of a separate fund that's not actually associated with it, but it's a booster club sort of.
Yeah.
Can they pay?
Yeah, they could pay them. It wouldn't have anything to do with us, but they could pay them. Another scenario would be volunteer coach, and maybe one of our other coaches chooses to give part of their compensation to them, which we have that as well. Those are a couple examples.
Okay, good questions. Any other questions? All right, we need a motion then to approve contracts.
Motion to approve new contracts.
Thank you. Brent, do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Andrea. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Your contracts are approved. Looks like we are at the adjournment hour, so I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thanks, Jay. Do we have a second? Thank you, Brent. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for tonight.
Thank you.
Enjoy the colder white weather now.
I just looked at it and
Softball, Coach Vio's giving part of his dollars to Cam.